we recommend using headphones. Welcome, Exile. If you've just set foot in the world of Path of Exile, you might already feel the weight of it pressing down on you. There's so much to grasp, builds to create, currency to form. Path of Exile harbors one of the most intricate worlds I've ever seen in a video game. Its lore is an abyss, deep and unyielding, much like the Soul series. These are games where you can pour hundreds, no, thousands of hours into their vast worlds and still barely grasp the truths hidden within. Here, the stories linger in the forgotten ruins and blood-soaked sands, and whispers carried on the winds of Rayclast, the fall of the Titans, the genesis of the Vastiri Desert, the enigma behind the goddess of water's disappearance. These tales, rich and layered, are there for those with the resolve to uncover them. Yet, they are not handed to you. They lie buried, obscured by the very own nature of action RPGs, where the fury of combat and the rush for loot consume your focus. Now, if you're ready to unravel the lore of Path of Exile 2, to delve into its dark corners and uncover its secrets, then this video is for you, and I shall be your guide. 20 years have passed since the fall of Oriath and the defeat of Kitava, the father of chaos, by the hands of an unknown hero, assisted by the gods Sin and Innocence. Much was sacrificed for this victory to be attained. As a last resort, Sin instructed the hero to recover the dark amber from the beast's deteriorating corpse, so they could use this power to defeat the fallen god. This is the essence of Path of Exile, a relentless struggle between chaos and order, darkness and light, corruption and divinity. These forces wage an eternal war, not just across the lands of Rayclast, but within the hearts of all who dwell there. But nothing in Path of Exile is ever simple. The game's lore doesn't offer clear definitions or easy answers. It toys with this eternal duality, revealing that these opposing forces are intertwined, one feeding of the other, each a shadow of the other's existence. Even in triumph, our actions leave ruin in their wake. Kitava may have been defeated, but the cost was staggering. The trail of destruction left by the hero is undeniable, and this is the cruel reality of Rayclast. No deed, however noble, comes without a price. When the scales tip too far toward order and divinity, the gods themselves become oppressors, enslaving humanity beneath their celestial yoke, but falter to chaos and the lands are consumed by corruption, as seen in the horrors unleashed by both the Fall and the Eternal Empire. This is also the very condition of human nature, a species capable of inspiring wonders, of compassion, of love, yet equally capable of descending into hatred, violence, and unspeakable cruelty when pushed to the breaking point. And this duality, this fragile balance, is embodied by the beast. It is not merely a creature, it's the personification of corruption itself, the force that brought the reign of the gods to an end, shattering their dominion over the world. Yet, in doing so, the beast did not bring liberation, it sowed the seeds of its own devastating consequences. Time and again, the beast's corruption has left its mark on history, unleashing cataclysmic events that reshaped the lands of Rayclast. It is a force as timeless as humanity's own flaws, a reflection of the perilous choices that come with power and the costs that follow in their wake. And so, Path of Exile 2 begins. Again, we find ourselves in the continent of Rayclast, but this time in Ezomyte lands, more precisely in the province of Pharaoh, inside the Ogham County. Bear in mind that this is the first time in the franchise that we actually delve into Ezomyte. In the first game, the only characters we knew from these lands were Einhar and Gregor, and here it is confirmed that Ogham was the first home for the Ezomyte people. From this place, after the event known as the Great Fire, they departed to settle Ezomyte and the Isles of Skoth. The Ezomytes are inspired, just as all factions in Lost, in some particular culture of the real life. Based on their names and overall aesthetics shown in this game, they seem to have strong northern inspirations. They have name semantics, mythology, and sometimes also drawing a little from Celtic cultures, with the presence of bards, druids, and fairy creatures in the woods. This is also noted from the feuds existent between the Ezomyte clans, which battled between themselves for a long time, at least until they had to unite against a common enemy. You see, this game happens around the year 1619 IC, which stands for Imperialis Conceptus. This means that the Eternal Empire was found in the year 1. Its roots come from the Ezmeri faction, which also draws from Celtic culture. The first emperor was Tarcus Veruso, and what marks the beginning of the expansion of the empire as a potency of enslavement of other factions was the reign of Titus Pirandus, right after the rule of someone you might know, Emperor Izaro.
Oh, the weary traveler draws close to the end of the path.
Titus Pirandus, a name etched in infamy, a despot who plunged Wraeclast into an era of oppression and cruelty. Under his rule, the Eternal Empire unleashed a relentless campaign of enslavement, sparing no one. Marikath, Karui, Ezomytes, all were forced to bow before the Empire's iron will. The reign of Titus Pirandus began in 1319 IC, an era defined by oppression and conquest. His ambition to dominate all of Wraeclast plunged the land into chaos, sparking a rebellion that would burn through the empire like wildfire. By 1336 IC, the oppressed peoples of Wraeclast, the Ezomytes, Karui and Marikath, rose together, shattering the empire's hold. For the Ezomytes, this struggle culminated in the infamous Bloody Flowers Rebellion, where Thane Rigwald led his people to a hard-fought victory against the Eternal Governor, Gaius Centauri, at the Battle of Glaring. Rigwald was a Thane leader of the Ezomytes after killing King Scoth. He was recruited into the Purity Rebellion by Victario Nivelius and led his people in revolt against Governor Gaius. The Ezomytes were successful. In this battle, a single Gemling legionnaire from the Empire could defeat 3 Ezomytes. In this situation, Rigwald realized that the Purity Rebellion needed monsters of its own to combat the Gemlings. He therefore called upon the Great Wolf, one of the first ones, to aid him. His call was answered and he gave himself over to the Great Wolf. After the rebellion, he left his people so that his new instincts to hunt would not cause him to hunt his own. He remains in Wraeclast, endlessly hunting for the ancient talismans of the First Ones. This rebellion is more than history. It is the cornerstone of the Ezomyte identity, a story of resilience and bloodshed that still shapes their hearts and minds. The battles of that era are not forgotten. The echoes of those conflicts remain etched into the fabric of Act 1, where the scars of war and betrayal remain raw. Even after 300 years. Now, it is the time to delve deeper. Let us journey through the events that unfold in the game itself, tracing the threads of history and unraveling how they intertwine with the questlines that lead us to the climatic end of Act 1. The stage is set, the scars of rebellion, betrayal, and bloodshed linger in every corner of Ogham. It is here, among these ruins of empire and defiance, that your story begins. The story begins with a caravan led by Count Geonor, also known as the Iron Count. Geonor is the ruler of Ogham County and serves as the main antagonist of the first act. You might have worked for him before, returning some candelabras which had been taken by the Eternals. Accompanying him is a group of soldiers and hired hands, making their way through the shadowy depths of the Grelwood. a place that will soon bear witness to the events that set everything in motion. The group is hunting for something. As they press deeper into the Grelwood, they are confronted by a mysterious entity, a figure shrouded in shadow and darkness. This creature is no man. Without hesitation, the figure unleashes its wrath, mercilessly slaughtering the group. But in its final moments, one of the archers fires a signal flare, a desperate call for aid. Count Geonor then arrives just in time, wielding a blade of ancient power, and with a decisive strike, he debilitates the shadowy creature. This creature, as it turns out, is what the group was hunting, not for the being itself, but for what it carries. Geonor's blade, no ordinary weapon, is steeped in the history of the Ezomyte clans, passed down through generations and holding power enough to subdue this formidable foe.
The Greatsword Agnar is currently in Count Geonor's possession, but the mighty runed blade was not always his to wield. It is an ancient weapon of the old magics, inspired by the Great Wolf himself. Legend says it was forged and runed for the original clan leader so he might lead his people to a new, safer land. This brought them to Farrell, where they founded Ogham. Ever since, Agnar was passed down to the leader of the strongest clan. When the position of Count was established in Ogham, the sword was bound to the role. But now, Geonor sullies its remarkable history with his misdeeds. I hope I will live to see the day when someone worthy takes up the sword once more.
Another curious fact is that we have heard this name before, in Path of Exile 1. The story of Agnar is told in the old bestiary Scarabs. Feuding Ezomyte slaughtered your kin, young Agnar, but we pulled you from the flames. The order of the Jinn is your clan now. None among us understand the beasts of this world better than you, honored Agnar. You will root out the mysteries of wild artifacts. The order was your clan in life, Agnar, Beastmaster, but the first ones call back their favorite son. The gift of their visions will pass to another. Without an experienced Beastmaster to find them new realms, the first one's ravaging hunt brings them even closer to Rayclast. Agnar, in Old Norse, it's a name that means sharp warrior. He is known by another title, the Beastmaster, a name that feels strangely familiar, as though I've heard it whispered before. There was someone else, long ago, who bore that same title, someone who seemed to transcend time itself, one who knew the primal huntress intimately and shared a bond with the first ones. But perhaps it is merely my mind weaving illusions. Still, the thought lingers. Could they truly be the same, or is it just a shadow of doubt haunting my thoughts? Well, back to the story. Count Geonor retrieves something from the shadowy figure, a small, golden spherical contraption, the seed of corruption. The two exchange a few words, and it becomes clear that the Count has some knowledge of the creature's identity. The hooded figure issues a warning, speaking of the dangers of using the seed of corruption, but Geonor is deaf to caution. With cold resolve, he replies,
Your kind no longer control this world.
Your kind no longer controls this world. In Path of Exile's lore, the gods once ruled the world, their reign only ending with the rise of the beast. Could it be then that this hooded figure is not merely a creature of shadow, but something far greater? Perhaps a god? If so, it is even more curious that the power of Ezomyte runes is capable of hindering a god, much like the beast was said to be able to absorb the power of divinity and put the gods into slumber. These runes work very similar to the runes of Kalgur. Could it be that these runes are what virtue gems could be, if perfected? Surely it is interesting that Danik mentions that runes can create cursed equipment when mishandled. So maybe there is a way of conducting the opposite power of divinity without inciting in corruption itself, but in something entirely different, neither good nor bad, but balance itself between the elements that compose the very world.
Runes are a complex science and a delicate art. If a smith doesn't understand their nuance, they'll only produce equipment one might call cursed. For that reason, novice runesmiths are rather dangerous. There is an energy in runelight, and power in verisium and other metals. Runes channel those forces like signposts or diversions altering a river's flow. The final meaning is the sum of what you've engraved. It means exactly what you told it to mean, for better or for worse.
From the nurture of the seed of corruption, a new beast is born, and this sets the stage for the beginning of the spread of corruption and the decay of Ogham and its ruler. And thus, your story begins. Count Geonor's descent into madness and tyranny grows more severe after he brings the beast to his manor. His rules are harsh, his punishments unyielding. Many are arrested, forced into brutal labor in his excavations. What exactly Geonor seeks remains a mystery, for now. It all begins with a scene of execution at the gallows pole, high in the Manor Ramparts. Here, the condemned awaits their fate. Among them, a monk accused of murdering his companions, a sorceress charged with burning crops, a warrior hunted not for his crimes but to be supposedly returned to his father, the blacksmith of Ogham. Yet here he stands, sentenced alongside the others. Now, Exile, the choice is yours. Among these prisoners, only one will be granted a second chance. A chance of freedom. Whether this choice leads to salvation or doom, that remains to be seen. We make our escape, but everything fades into darkness as we fall into the river. Time blurs. When we wake, it's on the riverbanks. We seem to be near the settlement of Clearfell, far south of the execution site. It's here that we come across a wounded man. He's weak, desperate, and tells us of the miller who went ahead to warn Clearfell of a strange sickness spreading through the land. The drowned, victims of the recent flood, have begun to rise from the dead. Before we can question him further, one of the drowned emerges to strike him down. We cannot save the man, but we do avenge him. And what of the miller, you ask? Did he make it to Clearfell? Well, yes, but not as himself. The sickness, born of corruption, has taken hold of him. He is no longer man, but a monster. The miller, once called Brannock, has become our first foe. We find him at the entrance of Clearfell, mindless and savage, trying to tear his way into the settlement he once sought to protect.
It's a shame what happened to old Brannock. He was a kind man in life, but I can't say I'll miss the creature he became. He tried to batter his way in for 5 full days. Once he rose again, well, we thought we were done for. But then you came along, and I'm glad you did.
We defeat the corrupted Brannock and are welcomed into the settlement of Clearfell. Here, we are greeted by Ramley, Ogham's blacksmith, and a man of great resilience. If you chose the warrior for your journey, Ramley will greet you with the warmth of a father reunited with his child.
Where have you been, lad? I've been worried sick. I looked for you everywhere after those soldiers came for you.
If not, Ramley's hope remains unbroken. He believes that just as you washed up on the riverbank, his son might someday find his way back to him as well. In Clearfell, we encounter 3 key characters, each with their own story to tell. First is Ramley, the blacksmith, whom we have already discussed, a man of strength and hope, grounded in the traditions of Ogham. Then there's Una, the songbird, a woman deeply connected to nature and the mystic powers that flow through the land. Her presence is calming, yet enigmatic, as though she carries the very essence of the wild within her. Lastly, there's Finn, the outcast. Denied by his own father, he was left without a clan, a fate that marked him deeply. Finn hides his pain behind a sharp wit and a quick tongue, but beneath the bravado lies the weight of a life shaped by hardship and rejection. Let's take a closer look into the tales of the people of Ogham and see what lies beneath each one of their individual stories. Bear in mind that Clearfell is not where each of them used to live. They are not here by choice, but by survival.
I survive, but all that I was is gone. Count Gianor has only been growing more and more cruel with his justice. He arrested my father for bringing in the harvest one day late, and the rest of my family scattered and fled as the soldiers came for them. I was away when it happened, but my neighbors warned me on my way home, and I fled. Clearfell is as far as I could go before the dangers of the forest closed in. There is scant hope in my heart for my father, but I must believe my mother and my 2 younger brothers escaped, even though my heart tells me that they are just songs now. I keep longing for a ray of light to cut through the darkness of these bleak days.
To this story, Finn compliments.
Oh, Una? Yeah, I know her. I was, elsewhere when the Count tried to arrest her family, but I certainly heard about it. It's just a coincidence we both ended up here. Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't follow her or anything like that. It would be unheard of for a clan girl and an outcast to, well, whatever you're thinking, don't. That's where I stand on it. You gotta be grounded in the real world. Don't get hung up on things that can never be. It'll just break your heart.
Funny enough, even in such a harsh environment, we catch glimpses of the little beauties of life. Like love blossoming between 2 souls, it's heavily implied that a forbidden romance is unfolding, a story reminiscent of Romeo and Juliet. She cannot openly pursue a relationship with a clanless man, as societal pressures push commoner women to secure marriages with men of prestigious clans. This dynamic is confirmed through Una's voice lines, where she speaks about her last discussion with her father.
Latis is from a prominent family in her clan, so I didn't know her well. But I did take hope from her actions. If a noblewoman could marry a commoner, then perhaps a commoner would be free to marry whoever she wants as well. It makes me think about the last conversation I ever had with my father. It was an argument. Though it tears at my heart, I choose to believe that deep down, he understood me.
And so, it becomes clear. Una and Finn are in love. Yet, due to the political and cultural constraints of the Ezomytes, they are forced to keep their love hidden, shielding it from prying eyes to avoid the consequences that such a forbidden union could bring. Now, back to our main story. You'll notice the gradual decay of Count Gianor, his madness reflected in his continuous acts of oppression. These are vividly illustrated by the official notes he leaves scattered across Ogham, each a grim reminder of his tightening grip on the land. These notes reveal his desperation for corpses, whether he seeks to uncover some hidden truth or plans to use the dead as sacrifices to fuel the beast, we still don't know. What is certain is that his obsession drives the county deeper into chaos. Our path leads us to the Grelwood, the very place where Gianor first claimed the seed of corruption. Here, we see the full effect of the spreading darkness. Animals have gone insane, werewolves prowl the shadows, and monstrous creatures lurk around every corner. It is here, at the heart of the Grelwood, that we encounter the Spirit Tree, a haunting monument to the corruption taking root, and hanging from its twisted branches, we find a hooded figure, barely alive. We summon Una, and through her guidance, the truth is revealed. The Count's sword Agnar was the instrument used to bind the Shade Soul to the Spirit Tree. Una shares that she has been plagued by dreams of the hooded figure and the tree. She believes these visions are a call to action and suggests that we aid the Shade, hoping it may hold the answers to the mysteries surrounding us. To free the Shade, we must harness the ancient power imbued in runes. power is strong enough to unravel the curse that binds it. This quest takes us to the Redvale, a land steeped in the horrors of war. Renly shares its grim history, though the people of Ogham did not join the other clans in the Bloody Flowers rebellion against the Eternal Empire's assault on their homeland. One of the fiercest battles unfolded here, in the cursed grounds of Redvale. They say the soil still runs red, not just with blood, but with the rust of the weapons and armor of countless Ezomytes who fell defending their land. Even now, the air seems heavy with the echoes of their sacrifice, a haunting reminder of the price they paid for freedom. And so, to collect the runes of power, we must cleanse the obelisks of rust scattered across the Redvale. This task leads us to confront the Rust King, a grotesque amalgamation born of the collective pain and suffering endured by the Ezomytes during this brutal war.
This is our land. We stand united.
This is our land. We stand united. A stone is not a stone. It is but one part of a fortress. The meaning behind these runes of power, unity, freedom, and truth. These values are what once united the feuding Ezomyte clans, binding them together in their defiance against a common enemy. The cleansing of these runes is not just a step forward in our quest, it is a symbolic act, the reminder of the resilience and strength that can emerge even from the toughest moments. With these runes and the help of Renly the blacksmith, we are able to forge the rune spikes. Together, the runes are an oath of peaceful passage and a request for freedom in pursuit of an important cause. And so, we are able to free the Hooded One from the spirit, but something is still not right.
The wound. It should be fatal, but somehow he clings to life. I fear it will not be long until his song ends. Only by a count's hand can this binding be released. I know an old tale, one that speaks of a ring we might be able to recover, buried 3 centuries ago in our ancient graveyard.
To reach the ancient cemetery, we must traverse the green Tangle, a place that once thrived with life and magic. Nurtured by the spirits of the forest, long ago Yuna knew a Jude here, a kind soul named Ervig, who served as a beacon of wisdom and harmony within this verdant realm, but those days are long gone. Now the way forward is obstructed by vicious, corrupted vines and jagged spikes, a manifestation of the decay that has overtaken this land. The spirits of the forest, enigmatic beings whose nature we still do not fully comprehend, lend their aid to open the path. Their essence bears an unsettling resemblance to the wisps we encountered in the Viridian woods during the Affliction League. Perhaps these spirits have ties to the Old Ones, the ancient entities venerated by the Ezomytes. Amid this decaying landscape, we find Ervig, but the joyful memories Yuna cherished of him are shattered. The corruption has claimed him entirely, transforming him into a vessel of fungal rot and malevolence. There is no saving him now. With heavy hearts, we must end Ervig's suffering, an act of mercy amidst the green decay. And so we continue our quest toward the cemetery and the answers that lie beyond. After navigating the treacherous paths of the green Tangle, we finally arrive at the cemetery of the Eternals. This haunting place carries a green history, and the Eternals once used it to assert dominance over the Ezomytes, burying their own dead atop the sacred resting place of their enemies.
Tread as heavily as you like. The Eternals stomped their graves all over ours when they had a conqueror's foothold here. Now if those graves have turned up and released their dead, take our vengeance on them. Some even say when the night is darkest, our ancestors still fight theirs among the tombs, and I don't doubt it. A true Ezomyte never surrenders their land, not even in death.
It is here that we encounter Lachlann The Lost, He pleads for our help, revealing that Praetor Draven has taken his family hostage. His desperation is palpable, but his words stir unease. The Eternals were devastated by the cataclysm centuries ago. Their empire crumbled to dust. This revelation raises a troubling question. Could Lachlann truly be lost? Has his mind succumbed to the decay and madness of this place? Or is there something far more sinister at play here? Whatever the truth, his plight must be attended, for we are still looking for the Count's ring. At the entrance of the Praetor's mausoleum, a name catches our eye. Draven Centauri. This name should feel familiar. It traces back to Gaius Centauri, the Eternal Governor defeated by Grelwood during the Bloody Flowers Rebellion. Draven, as his ancestors it seems, had the same seething hatred for the Ezomytes, and Xenia shared in that animosity. Concerning the Praetor's consort, she was once a servant to the Centauri family, but as she aspired to become Draven's wife, she killed his first partner. One might have expected Draven to be dismayed by such darkness lurking in her heart, but instead he embraced it, finding in her ambition and cruelty a reflection of his own relentless nature. A chilling testament to the kind of people who thrived under the Eternal Empire's banner. But were all Eternals so devoid of compassion? Their legacies seem to be marked by cruelty, as etched into the remnants of their memorials. The cruelty of the Eternals shall never be forgotten. But why such venom? Why such endless hate? The answer lies nearby, in the shadow of this graveyard. We find two smaller graves, one for a son, the other for a daughter. The voices that recount these epitaphs are unmistakably Xenia's and Draven's.
Our victory is never complete, so long as the Ezomytes resist us. Let this graveyard erase their stain on the land. My dearest daughter, beloved for all time, rest well.
Let this be a testament for all time. The Eternal Empire stakes claim over this land both in life and death. My beloved son, your death shall be avenged, even if it takes 1,000 years.
Even these tyrants, so consumed by vengeance, were once parents grieving unimaginable loss. Their cruelty, it seems, was born of sorrow, their relentless hatred fueled by the grief of losing their children. A grief so profound that it endured even beyond death. After much struggle, both Xenia and Draven are defeated. Yet again, we get this strange feeling in the air. Both of them emerged from their own graves, and we did find them in their respective sepulchral places. Just as we expected, they have been dead for centuries and are nothing but rests now. We open the gates of the cemetery, and the truth we suspected comes to light. Lachlann finds his family's graves and his own.
Isabel, Torquil, Callum, the family of Count Lachlann of Ogham. My family! This doesn't make any sense! They're dead! Those bastard Eternals! I must make them pay! I must make them suffer!
Consumed by rage, he transforms into a monster. We are tasked with ending the Count's misery, allowing him to finally reunite with his family. Lachlann is a character that, although he's a mortal enemy of Eternals like Draven and Xenia, the game still manages to show both their suffering due to the same war, without glorifying any of the sides. This doesn't hide the fact that Xenia was a murderer and that Draven treated Ezomytes like dogs, but it's still interesting how the family subject is touched here. With the Count's ring in hand, we return to Clearfell and finally manage to wake the Hooded One from his slumber. It is here that the plot intensifies, as the Hooded One begins to unravel the truth. He reveals that the seed of corruption is the source of all affliction of Ogham. What's most intriguing is his admission. He did everything in his power to keep the seed hidden, to ensure it would never fall into the wrong hands. but as he states,
20 years ago, in the wake of those tremendous events, mankind was busy with its own survival. No one was looking for me, and no one saw me. I lurked in high places and dark places, seeking to keep the seeds safe from men of ambition. In recent years, however, I found myself continually forced to move from place to place. There was always one more hunter, one more patrol, one more grove being cut down or cave being mined. There was nowhere to hide, and my path inexorably took me here, which was apparently exactly where someone wanted me to be. This was all a trap, laid over the course of years, and at colossal expense. Someone wanted the seed at any cost, which surely bodes ill for their intentions.
And so, our journey takes us to the Ogham Village, where we continue our pursuit of the beast, striving to contain the spread of corruption and darkness. This path leads us to the hunting grounds. Here, we stumble upon the Great Hunt, also known as the Trial of the Beastmaster, a clear homage to a beloved character in this franchise, Einhar. In this arena we find skulls resembling his mask and red feathers that evoke his iconic garments. It feels as though Einhar's presence lingers here, guiding us. We encounter a hideous creature called the Crowbell, its monstrous form bearing arrows embedded in its back. Could these have been fired by Einhar himself? If so, this trial may very well have been his doing, a test left for us on our journey, and in true Einhar fashion, the gates close as the creature tries to flee. Also, within the hunting grounds we find a strange ritual altar. Its design unnervingly familiar. If you've delved into the lore of the first game, you might recognize this as the work of the King in the Mists. This figure created a cult fueled by faith and devotion, channeling the unwavering belief of his followers to serve his own plans, a flow of devotion, twisted into a weapon of control.
Allow me to describe the situation thus. A man comes upon an altar in the wild. He knows not who the altar serves, but he pays tribute to it nonetheless. It grants him a paltry gift, a trinket, nothing more. He imagines all the possibilities. He imagines wealth. Ever after, he seeks out more of these altars and continually pays tribute to his unknown benefactor in the vain hope that his life will change. Thus it is with all religions. The man is a devout follower, though he knows it not. His faith fuels his own gradual doom.
These are the words of the Breaker of Oaths, who reveals a profound and unsettling truth that the Nameless were able to claw their way out of the endless void of nothingness and into reality. The process, he explains, is through names, through meaning. That which exists but cannot truly be gains form and substance through the act of naming, through the imposition of purpose. It is a concept both cryptic and paradoxical. A creature that yet is not finds its way into existence through the will of those who dare to define it. Confusing? Perhaps, but such is the nature of life.
The border between the wild wood and the realm of the Nameless does not exist. That is not to say, however, that it cannot be reached. The realm of the Nameless is not the web. It cannot be. Yet, it is. In fact, the moment you do comprehend something from the realm of the Nameless, the moment you imagine it, understand it, name it, takes on meaning and becomes part of life's web. It ceases to not be. Quite literally, we can never truly understand nothingness, for if we did, it would no longer be nothing.
This man, the Breaker of Oaths, once violated the sacred way of the Magi and sought to take the place of the King in the Mists, believing he could end the endless war. What's fascinating, however, is that later in this act, we will face the King in the Mists, but the question lingers. Is he the same as the one in Path of Exile 1? Could the Breaker of Oaths have succeeded in taking his place? Another mystery, one that will linger in the shadows until more revelations come to light. What matters is that the King in the Mists has emerged as a key player in the intricate power struggle gripping this world. And it seems that the presence of the Nameless in this act could be more than just a coincidence, or even asset reutilization from the previous game, because in fact there's even a specific quote from the Hooded One that makes one raise an eyebrow.
All children have imaginary friends. Most grow out of that phase. A rare few refuse to let go, creating real from unreal through sheer stubbornness. Gods born of man certainly exist, but did a gigantic red tiger named Farul actually run the plains of the primordial world? There is no way to know. Will the world end if she and her savage ilk return? The answer, I imagine, is up to those who would stand and fight on that day. Be glad that today is not that day, as far as I know.
In this passage, he talks about the first ones. It is such a curious passage. Gods and deities are a recurring theme in Path of Exile. Concerning the old ones, we do have proof that they exist. Grelwood used the power of the Great Wolf to win the Battle of Clarin. Also, every single faction has had their own deities. Were they Karui, Marikath, or even Eternals? What would make the Ezomyte's pantheon different? Well, at a closer glance, we do see some odd characteristics. For example, until now every god we have seen, which have ascended from humans, had this anthropomorphic structure. But the first ones are all entities with animalistic features. A spider, a tiger, a wolf, the Hooded One, a figure of mystery who might as well not be a source of unquestionable truth, has a very incisive opinion that the Old Ones are not true gods. Rather, he believes that they are the manifestation of the unreal becoming real, through sheer stubbornness, similar to the nameless entities introduced in the Affliction League.
The King in the Mists was not the first to escape the realm of nameless nothingness. A great many seasons ago, a curious young man walked the wild wood on his journey elsewhere. He stopped at a waterfall and engaged in a flight of fancy, naming creatures that he imagined might exist unseen among the trees. When the denizens of the wildwood tell you not to use true names, they mean it.
This description feels so eerily interconnected to the Hooded One's speech. Could it be that the first ones were once entities from the void? Spirits made real into our realm through sheer stubbornness of the Ezomytes. They do certainly meet the criteria. All first ones have a respective title, much like any of the nameless that once became real. The Porcelain Queen, the King in the Mists, First of the Plains, the Great Wolf. If so, even Grelwood recognized that they were not a source of divinity at all. The first ones may be blasphemy, but they are powerful blasphemy. They could even be the very creatures named by the unknown traveler. And could this traveler be Einhar, who after hunting everything out there, started creating his own mighty creatures to challenge him in the hunt? This does synergize very well with the abundant presence of the Wildwoods in Act 1, the presence of wisps, the twisted branches, the King in the Mists, the spread of Affliction, the first ones. Surely it makes for an interesting theory. This growing presence raises Finn's concerns, as it threatens the Freythorn, a population of clanless people who live high above the trees in these woods, a group Finn was once a part of for much of his life. The king's altars and ambitions now cast a dark shadow over those who have long sought refuge in the treetops, forcing Finn to confront a past he thought he had left behind. At the entrance of Freythorn, a notice of amnesty, a decree from Count Geonor, urging the clanless to come to his manor to fulfill their duty against the dangers plaguing Ogham. But is redemption truly what the Count seeks? Or does he intend to use them as sacrifices to the beast? At the entrance, it's clear we are too late. Freythorn has already fallen, overtaken by cultists and creatures from the void. There is nothing left here. We must fight to honor the clanless who once called this place home. For Finn, it's as if he's lost his family once again. Clanless though they were, they stood together, bound by shared struggles, and now Finn can only lament. Clearfell is all I have left. We press on, continuing our path towards the village. Along the way, we find Una's lute, a beautiful and ancient heirloom passed down from mother to daughter for generations, a fleeting moment of beauty amidst the chaos. When we finally reach Ogham Village, it is a place long consumed by corruption. The destruction here is overwhelming, even giving rise to grotesque horrors like demon bacon. In the middle of this devastation, another decree from the Count is found. This time, his descent into madness is more than undeniable. While the people face undead horrors, the Count, consumed by paranoia, heard only the whispers in his mind. He declared his own people traitors, demanding that everyone report to the manor immediately for questioning. What remains of the village is death, ashes, and flames, and the faint echoes of a once thriving community reduced to ruin. The madness of the Count has left nothing but despair. In the center of the town lies the Courtyard of Death, a grim platform where a live execution is taking place right before our eyes. Here, we are forced to confront a familiar face, the very executioner who was tasked with ending our life at the gallows pole, at the start of our journey. Now, it's time to meet death face to face once again, in a final duel. When the fight is over, we free the lone survivor of the execution. Her name is Lachlann, of a prominent Ezomyte clan. She reveals that she was arrested for attempting to escape Count Gianar's madness and the horrors of the manor. Sadly, her escape failed, and worse, her husband, Anon, the man we saw executed moments before, was caught and killed before her. Lachlan's story reflects the desperation gripping all of Ogham. No one is safe, not the clanless, not the villagers, not even the nobles who once lived under the Count's protection. The madness of Count Gianar spares no one, and the shadow of this paranoia has plunged even the manor's inner circle into fear and chaos. Right now in Ogham, no one is safe. The Count burned the village of his own people to the ground. He must be stopped. Now, we are in the Manor Ramparts, a place full of the Count's orders around. Brutal orders to make all men work a third shift and keep on the excavations at full capacity. Any rest is punished with execution. Further, we meet the place of our first failed execution, the gallows pole. There is another Count's decree here, in which he declares that any crimes committed from now on are punishable with death, and their bodies must be conducted to the pit. And more orders in which we get more perspective on his side, and how he now thinks that anyone can be a conspirator. Chaos has already taken full control of the people of Ogham. Now, inside the manor, it is time to finally confront the Iron Count and put an end into this situation. In the center of this place, we see the damage done. The so-mentioned excavation led to a giant pit where the Count and the Countess sit, as they watch their servants working until collapse get served to feed the beast. In one particular chamber, there is a journal that belongs to Count Gianar, and this particular document has so much crucial information that we will need to take the appropriate time to explore it.
I sense Oriana knows, and I cannot deny that which I know deep down to be true. That fair-haired villager, an eternal descendant, she knew. At that moment when our eyes locked, we both knew. She clung to her children like I would end them then and there. She is at no risk now, but how many others must I fear? Is my blood truly impure? Oriana assures me we can right some of the wrongs of the past. She promises a way forward for Ogham. A way forward for the clans and the clanless alike. And a way forward for me. We must continue with our task.
Why does the Count care so much about his lineage? Don't forget this has been answered long ago, in the very own story of the legendary sword he carries, Agnar. And the position of Count of Ogham was always a role given to those fit to wield it. However, Gionor was born into the role. He did not earn his position. So for him, if his lineage is not pure, he recognizes that there is not a single reason for him to be the head of the clan. So imagine, not only does he have the worry that his ancestors stained their purity, but he also recognizes in some moment that he had children with a fair-haired villager, an eternal descendant. And I believe that this piece of lore indicates the very possibility that Gionor might be Finn's biological father. Everything fits here. He was renegated by his father, left clanless, because his own existence reminded Gionor of the impure blood he put into this world. There is some piece of scraped content that also supports this theory, from a stage of development when Lachlann was supposed to be the head servant of the manor, where he writes a letter to Finn.
Finn, there have been rumors that the forest paths have been somehow changing their shape. I can only ask the first ones to aid this courier in finding his way to you. I will not be able to bring potion supplies to the outcast this high moon. I've seen signs that the behavioral changes of the forest beasts may be afflicting men as well. There is something deeply wrong in the manor. Lachlann, head servant of Ogham Manor.
Think about this. Why would a head servant of Ogham Manor send a letter to a random clanless outcast? Perhaps he knew this man when he was once a kid of his own master who was destituted of his place between nobles because of his origin, of his own eternal blood. And speaking of Lachlann, in another room we find this picture of what seems to be the man himself, with his family, a register of another time, when they were all alive. And so, we finally reach the arena, where Gionor and Oriana are. We see as the remaining guards keep on digging, and the beast gets fed more corpses to keep on developing. Here, we have our final battle with Gionor. He wields Agnar and summons the power of his ancestors. With this sword, he's capable of pulling the strength of the Great Wolf. But in the middle of the battle something goes wrong. Oriana abandons Gionor, calls him a weak man. She takes the beast and flees. We cannot pursue her. We still have to deal with the Count. Suddenly, the power of Agnar mixes with the corruption, and Gionor takes the form of a putrid wolf. The fog rises and Gionor starts reciting chilling poetry.
Winter's chill sought the unworthy through an endless night. They wither and tarry, forsaken frosts, as cold as death. Of bearer's misery, the pack won't forget.
After a hard-fought battle, Gionor's madness is put to a stop. In his last breaths, Gionor is taken with a moment of clarity. He explains that he was manipulated by Oriana, and that he found messages from the desert. She fled to the Vastiri region, and so Gionor makes a final wish. He pleads for the Other One to end his madness. And thus, the beast leaves Ogham, and the sun rises once again. Of course, many wounds are still open, and they will sure leave scars in the people of Clearfell for a long time to come. But now, light shines once again, and a thread of hope lingers in the hearts of the survivors. It may take time, but Ogham will rise once again, as it did in the Winter of the World, as it did when the Ezomytes confronted the Eternal Empire, and now once again, as corruption has been contained in these lands.
Count Gianor is dead. I never thought there'd come a day when we can finally start rebuilding our poor, damaged Ogham. It's going to be a long and difficult struggle, but it's not nearly the first time we Ezomytes have had to rise from the ashes.
Renly will live on and lead his people. They will have a lot of work ahead of them, but so do we. The chase for the beast must continue. The next stop will be the Vastiri Desert. Until we meet again, Exile.